We can no longer simply say that we are not the party of Donald Trump. Because you know why? People apparently don't give a damn, right? They just don't care. They want to make sure that they can afford their groceries and utility bills.
For that very reason that that the candidates that are willing to sort of put things on the table that some of the establishment might think are outlandish or whatever are the ones getting the most attention.
President Trump's poll numbers are continuing to fall. And according to CNN's latest discussion, it's not just Republicans who should be worried. Democrats are being warned that they could still blow a golden political opportunity. The panel debates why Trump's approval ratings have reached historic lows, why the economy continues to be his biggest weakness, and whether Democrats have actually done enough to convince Americans that they're ready to govern again. The discussion also dives into the growing influence of democratic socialism within the party, and whether that's helping or hurting Democrats heading into the midterm elections. Now, if you're new here, I'm Bradley Hostin, and this is The Bradley Hostin Show. If you enjoy honest political commentary, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Stick around until the very end because after we watch this clip, I'm going to explain why I think this conversation exposed problems for both Republicans and Democrats. As usual, let's watch the clip, and then I'll give you guys my thoughts afterwards.
We all know the intention.
Okay. The Republicans are kind of making the same mistake right now that I saw the Kamala Harris campaign make in 2024, where they kind of ignored the economic pain that so many Americans are feeling right now. Things haven't improved a whole lot. And I will say, I come from America's heartland. I come from the middle of the country, from Kansas City. And I have tons of people in my family and friends that were lifelong Democrats and then switched when Donald Trump came along. And many of them are telling me right now that they're disappointed, actually, in the direction of the country. But at the same time, they are not necessarily liking Democrats. And so I would say that Democrats, this is obviously a good sign for them, but I wouldn't get too optimistic because there's still some fundamental things that they need to address.
Don't ever get optimistic about Democrats. We are notorious.
The numbers are awful for Democrats.
We are notorious about ripping defeat out of the jaws of victory. Look, there are a couple of things that you hit the nail on the head about. Like the first is Donald Trump is notoriously weak on across the board. The economy hasn't gotten any better. There's some notorious blunders you can point at, like Iran. People don't know why we're still there. Today, we just saw the expansion of the war into Egypt. You see these headlines every single day. We're talking about anti-weaponization. We're talking about infighting. But at the end of the day, my criticism to my own party is that we have not developed a clear enough message answering one question, which is, what are you going to do tangibly for the American people if we give you the reins of power? I have not heard Hakeem Jeffries answer that question, and it drives me nuts. We can no longer simply say that we are not the party of Donald Trump. Because you know why? People apparently don't give a damn, right? They just don't care. They want to make sure that they can afford their groceries and utility bills.
For that very reason that that the candidates that are willing to sort of put things on the table that some of the establishment might think are outlandish or whatever are the ones getting the most attention, because at least they're saying, oh, we're going to do something.
Is that
do X,
good?
Y, and Z.
Is that great?
I did not say that it was good. I'm just saying.
It might not be.
I'm just saying if there is a choice between vagarities and specificity, voters are actually kind of, in some cases, gravitating toward the candidates who are being pretty specific about what they want to change.
Yeah, and that's atypical, because you would typically want, as a candidate, to paint a blank canvas and then allow voters to paint whatever their desires would be on top of it. What Democrats are benefiting from right now is that their base is just very enthusiastic to vote. Republicans, less so. You can expect that to change as we get closer to October. And there are a lot of opportunities on the table. Oh, because Republican voters will engage with the election. All voters will engage. Yeah, it always tightens up as you get closer into the fall. It's unwise to judge the election based on summer polling when people aren't necessarily tuned into the races. They will. And it will be a good year for Democrats. Democrats are going to be more enthusiastic than Republican voters are. They don't have as much to vote on. However, a competent political operation can channel that economic message. You're absolutely right. That's what they want to talk about. And say, listen to what these Democratic candidates are proposing, and what that's going to do to your wallet.
Well, and the ones who are actually doing that, I mean, looking at the CNN poll, only 34% say Democrats are the party that cares about the people like you. When you look at the favorability, 30%
okay,
favorable for Democrats.
We have the graphic, so let me put it up because it's also it's important to put up the full thing because 34% say the Democrats are the party that cares about you. That's compared to 25% that say the same about Republicans. So they have an almost 10-point advantage. There's party fighting corruption. They're almost evenly matched there. Party that gets things done. This is the issue that I think we're talking about here. Republicans have an 8-point advantage. The party of extremism, Republicans by 10 points. That's actually
Well, here's the thing.
in the Democratic Socialists of America environment. That's kind of surprising that Americans are not even. It's not even. That's like the least close one.
Also,
where they
just
say Republicans are the extreme party.
The caveat I have to give about CNN polls or Emerson polls or whomever is polling is that at the end of the day, it's about candidates. And one of the things that midterm elections have shown is that Republicans usually choose some candidates that have warts beyond belief, right? I mean, we go back to Roy Moore's of the world. We go back to Todd Akins of the world, right? Or what's the woman who was not a witch?
Yeah.
Catherine O'Donnell, right?
O'Donnell, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, and on the flip side this year.
That was a time.
That was a time. But this year you have people like John Ossoff. You have in North Carolina the former governor of North Carolina, Roy Cooper. You actually have Josh Turek in Iowa. You have Sherrod Brown, who are not out of touch with mainstream, who are talking about the issues that you're talking about. So when it drills down to candidates, I do think that we've done a good job across the board, even in some House races, of getting very good candidates, irrespective of what the national mood may play.
But what is the model that you just described, the Todd Akin model, the nationalize the race model? It is to make that guy emblematic of the party and compel all these other nominees who have nothing to do with them to get on the record about that guy. That is what a competent political operation could do with Eliza Chevalier, with El Said in Michigan, half a dozen in Milas Kiros, who said that we deserve 9/11 in Colorado, half a dozen others I can think of. And that is available to them also. Joe Biden's popularity at this point in 2022 was pretty much where Donald Trump's is, and yet Republicans didn't really benefit from a wave election because their candidate selection.
Well, also
History
because of
History tells us Democrats
of the
win.
Dobbs decision.
But the question is by how much? And that's really when it plays the biggest role is who's actually getting elected on the Democratic
Evan,
side.
On one of the interesting findings of this poll, they asked Democrats, do you identify as a socialist, a democratic socialist? 34% said yes.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. And it doesn't surprise me. I think over the last 10 years, there were people that I knew working in Democratic politics that ardently supported Hillary Clinton in 2016 and have now swung way to the left and are, now telling me that they're behind people like Abdul al-Sayed. And I think the base has actually radicalized in a more far left direction. I don't think that's a good thing, just so you guys know. I think it's actually like, the establishment Democrats kind of lost the trust of people in my family, right? Because they weren't able to economically deliver. It was sort of just pushing the status quo. Although Barack Obama did give me health care, and so I'm really grateful for that, and I will always be because I have a lung disease similar to cystic fibrosis. However, other than that, there wasn't a lot of big transformation. And so the progressives are coming along and they're promising that. But they also come with all of this sort of far left cultural and social baggage that is not appealing at all to the working class of this country. And I think could drive an either bigger wedge between Democrats and people like my family.
You also have to look at who is really the core base of the Democratic Socialists, and it tends to be elite white people.
Exactly.
College educated.
Yeah. College educated.
And that is one of the biggest problems that Democrats have actually is that it's this education polarization. It used to be that non-educated people voted for Democrats, and now there has been this realignment.
Well, and a couple interesting things about that. I mean, two things. One, I mean, the education polarization has been driven. I would argue, actually, it was more driven by Donald Trump pulling non-college educated whites toward him. But he is suffering with that constituency right now. That's his base, and they're moving away from him. I also think Zohran Mamdani is an interesting example of this because look at this favorability number. He is the most popular Democrat among Democrats right now, right? By a lot.
It was something like 30%.
But I mean, Hakeem
Yeah, in
Jeffries,
comparison to everyone else.
in comparison to everyone
Killing it.
else.
Yeah.
And then when you look a little deeper into the numbers, there was some skepticism of him among voters of color, but that has shifted. He has net favorability among voters of color in the Democratic Party right now. So there are shifts that can happen and are happening.
Certainly, and I think, look, I mean, Trump has a higher favorability than Mamdani, and Mamdani is being celebrated as having this high favorability at 30%. They're just really, really low numbers. I will say, because I don't know if I'm shocked by the number of people who identify as socialists. I will say, I don't think they know what that means in the context of the party itself.
Yes,
the
and
problem
I also think it may not even.
They don't.
They may not even care.
The problem is more
that
practical
word doesn't scare them.
because the people that they're voting for do believe the crazy stuff, and then they get into power, and then they harm the Democrats long term.
Well, first of all, they have to win, which is the danger that
They're
we're
winning.
facing in the Wisconsin gubernatorial race and in Michigan.
Right.
That makes people uneasy. But Democrats have actually set up a realignment, kind of getting back to the base, because the primary comes through South Carolina, which means that my mom and her friends, they're not voting for Zoran Mondani. They're not voting for AOC. They know that. Then you have Virginia, which you have a good bit of college-educated white voters. And then you have Michigan, where you have working-class voters that we're talking about. So, and this is, I remind people all the time, Bernie Sanders did not fare well in the Democratic primary. And people will have all of these other reasons.
In the South.
In the South.
He did actually in 2016.
First of all, Hillary Clinton beat him by 4 million votes.
But I mean, I don't know that it's fair to say that he didn't perform well in the primary. But he was the runner-up in 2016.
There were people in my family who wanted Bernie to win, and then when he lost, they ended up going for Trump. It's a real
But I'm just saying, I don't think that it's totally true to say that.
But this is
it's geographic. The geography of the primary matters. The geography of the party matters, and the Democratic Party has to do this. They have to do a really careful game of playing different games in different parts of the country.
So there are a few things that really stood out to me in that discussion. First and foremost, let's start with Donald Trump. When you've got multiple national polls all putting your approval rating in the low 30s, that's not something you can just dismiss as fake news anymore. At some point, you have to ask yourself why that's happening. And the answer, in my opinion, is exactly what Harry Enton pointed out. It's the economy. Donald Trump came back into office promising to make life more affordable, promising to lower prices and improve the economy. And if voters don't believe that's happening, they're going to punish him for it. The second thing that really caught my attention was the criticism coming from Democrats themselves. I actually agreed with the point that simply saying we're not Donald Trump is not a winning message. Americans want to know what you're actually going to do for them. How are you going to lower the cost of living? How are you going to make housing more affordable? How are you going to improve health care? Those are the questions voters care about. And if Democrats can't answer them clearly, then they're going to waste a massive opportunity. Now, the conversation around democratic socialism was interesting because it's becoming increasingly clear that there's a real debate happening inside the Democratic Party. Some believe that's where the future of the party is heading, while others think it risks pushing away moderate and working-class voters. Whether that's true or not, it's a debate Democrats are going to have to settle before the next presidential election. But here's the biggest takeaway for me. Elections aren't won because the other side is unpopular. They're won because you convince people that your vision is better than the alternative. Right now, Donald Trump is struggling because many Americans aren't happy with where the country is. But Democrats shouldn't assume that's automatically going to benefit them. They still have to earn those votes. Let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments section below. Do you think Donald Trump's approval ratings will recover before the midterms? Or do you think Democrats are in a position to take advantage of this moment? As usual, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more news commentaries. I'll see you guys in the next one.